The funding for this video is provided by the amazing members of our Patreon. Also contributions from viewers like you. Thank you. Yeah, I started from PBS Kids. What you gonna do? Fight me? Anyway, roll the video.
Come on, boys, get loud. 'Cause when the music starts bumping, the whole place will be jumping. It's my scene, my scene. You know what I mean. It's my scene, you know what
Hey y'all, it's Harriyanna and I'm back with another video. Hi, hello, how are you doing? My name is Harriyanna and welcome to or welcome back to the pirate ship, also known as Harriyannahook's pirate ship. I am the captain. You are not my first mate. I don't got no first mate because you want to know why? Come here. I tell everybody a nice little secret when they come to my channel. Nobody's worthy of being the first mate. But hi, hello, how are you guys doing? My name is Harriyanna and I like to make content based off nostalgia and family and children's entertainment and all the issues that I find within those spaces. Now, I know y'all saw the title. I know y'all saw the thumbnail. Hear me out. Just listen to me, okay? One, I love Susie. I adore Susie. She was one of my favorite fictional characters growing up, and her being one of the few black fictional characters I had growing up is part of the reason why I love Susie. I think she's great, but overall she is not good representation, and I'm gonna sit here and explain why. So exactly who is Susie? I am going to be talking more about Susie from All Grown Up than Rugrats because I can't stand Rugrats. I was never a fan of the show. I found it annoying as hell. But I was a really big fan of All Grown Up. All Grown Up is one of my favorite cartoons, okay? That is the Susie that we will be referring to more in this video because I feel like it's a little bit more relevant to the subject matter. Because as we know, Rugrats is about babies. There's so much that you can do with babies, and also I just found it irritating as shit. It's so hard for me to get through an episode of Rugrats. But All Grown Up, they actually feel more human. These characters actually feel more like people, and that is where I started to see more of these issues when it comes to Susie's character. And so much of what went wrong with Susie's character has to do with there were little to no black people working behind the scenes of these series. So let's go ahead and begin. Who is Susie? Susie Carmichael is basically a character from the Rugrats franchise. She is voiced by Cree. We're gonna get there because I have some things to say about that as well. Basically, Susie is your typical straight A student. She's a goody two-shoes. She likes to stay out of trouble. She gets along well with everyone, but she's also not afraid to put people in their place, okay? She's not afraid to check a bitch, okay? Susie is that girl. She's extremely talented. She's an overall good person. She's basically your stereotypical token black kid. You either get two kind of token black kids. You either get them where they're extremely smart and well outgoing and all that, or where you get them where, you know, they're basically urbandictionary.com. Now that I mentioned that Susie Carmichael was voiced by Cree. Cree basically is a black voice actor. She has been voice acting since about the 80s, and you know her voice when you hear it. Cree, like she has said herself, I voiced all the black girls, and she's not lying. Most of the black female characters that you see, it's not even just female characters because she voiced some boys too. Most of those characters that you see from the early to mid 2000s cartoons and 90s cartoons, when you look at the credits and if that character is black, 9 times out of 10, she was voiced or he was voiced or they were voiced by Cree. Now, is that a bad thing? Yes, but also no. It's nice that we do have a voice actor that is black portraying these characters. That is what we need. But the sad thing about it is that she was taking all of the roles to the point where no one really even knows of another popular voice actress, black voice actress during that time period, because Cree was the one that was taking most of the roles. And yes, it's good that a black woman is being employed, but also the voice acting community is extremely white dominated, white male dominated, white female dominated. So many white people take up space within the voice acting community, and that's sad. Last time I checked, white cartoon characters are not the only ones that exist. one person should not have to take on the responsibility of voicing all of the black characters, because that's so sad how Cree would be over here voicing this character, and the next thing you know, she got to run somewhere else and do the other voice for the other black character there because they didn't want to hire somebody else to do the job. They were like, oh, we already know one black voice actress, let's just hire her to do all the black girls. No, because that honestly pisses me off, because I remember in Codename Kids Next Door, there were 2 black girls in the series. Number 5, Abigail, and her older sister, Cree, who was a former member of the Kids Next Door. Cree Summer voiced both of them. Y'all could have hired somebody else to voice the other person or whatever. Like, you see the issue that I'm coming from? She voiced all the black characters. I think the first time I've ever seen multiple different black voice actors on a television show would have to be the Proud Family. And yes, Cree Summer was on that series just as well, but what makes me happy about the Proud Family is that Cree Summer didn't play a main character. She played a supporting character. Other black voice actors were doing the voices of the other main characters, and that was just very nice to see. But when you go and look at their resumes, their voice acting resume is not nearly as long as Cree Summer's. Next, moving on from that, we need to talk about Jodie again. If you guys know who Jodie Landon is, Jodie Landon basically is the token black kid of Daria. And also, I feel like a lot of y'all are not understanding what the token black kid means. So I'm going to go on google.com right now and actually read you guys the definition of tokenism, and then I'll be back with the rest of my commentary. Tokenism. The practice of making only a perfunctory or symbolic effort to do a particular thing, especially in the recruiting a small number of people from underrepresented groups in order to give the appearance of sexual or racial equality within a workforce. And because that definition of tokenism was a bit vague, I went on to TV tropes to give you guys a better understanding of what kind of tokenism we are talking about, and that is tokenism when it comes to media, and it's called the token black kid trope, and I'm going to sit here and read to you guys what is on the screen. By the way, I do not stand by Kevin Hart, it's just there. Let's go. Some of my best friends are sassy black people, so you're hip. You're smart, you got class, and when you say some of my best friends are X, you want people to know that there is credibility behind your statement. That's the best way to show it, by having a black best friend. Your black best friend is sassy. She's never too busy to lend an ear or come along to do your wacky schemes. She is flawless to the point of being unreal, until it's time to save the day, of course. That's what the white heroes are for. It's because she has no love life, no apartment, and no family. It's hard to say, but there's one thing for sure. She has a cell phone and it never ignores your calls. And this isn't just limited to the token black friend that we see in children's media, but that last part right there, I see it a lot in adult media as well. Okay, let's get back to the video. In my opinion, even though Susie came first before Jodie, I always saw Susie as just a younger version of Jodie in All Grown Up. All Grown Up actually came out after Daria, so newer Susie is a lot like Jodie. But what frustrates me so much about these two characters is because so much about them was that they had to be perfect. I remember in Daria, Jodie didn't like the fact that she felt as if she had to be perfect, because as you know, Lawndale, where Daria takes place at, is a predominantly white suburb. Jodie is one of the few black people that lives there, and her boyfriend, who is also black, is also one of the few black people that live there as well. And when you watch the series, you get to pick up on the fact that part of the reason why Jodie and Mac are together is because they're both black. And that's one pet peeve that I've always just had about television, when they would have black cartoon characters, because they will always just throw two black cartoon characters together just for the sake of that, and there'll be barely any other black people around, which I understand. You want to date somebody that you can relate to when it comes to your race, but then also it just feels kind of cheap. Because that's one thing that irritated. That's one thing I really did enjoy when it came to the subject of Teen Titans 2003, where Bumblebee and Cyborg, they did have a nice friendship together, and she basically put his ass in place all the time. You go, Bumblebee. She was that bitch, okay? But I really like the fact that she was not romantically involved with him. But what irritates me so much is because so much of the Teen Titans fandom just shipped them together, and part of the reason why is because they were black. But if you ship Cyborg with anyone else. Like, if you ship Cyborg with Raven or even Starfire, people will get pissed talking about they're not compatible, yada, which doesn't make sense because Cyborg was around Starfire and Raven more. And I remember people were throwing a big nasty ass fit when it came to people shipping Bumblebee and Speedy together when they were always in each other's face. Like, you see that kind of bullshit. But anyway, that got off topic. But even though Daria went really smart about it though, how they put Mac and Jodie together, because that's part of the reason why they were together. They even acknowledged that part of the reason they were together was because they were both black. But it's one thing in particular that Jodie had brought up that I had mentioned earlier, is that she was talking about how she feels as if she has to be perfect. And part of the reason why she doesn't want to fuck up is because she is aware that she is one of the few black people in her school and that so many of them look up to her. Jodie has to fit in. She has to blend in with the crowd. She can't draw attention to herself. Well, negative attention to herself. She has to be good black representation because she knows damn well that if she fucks up, the other white kids at her school, which was mostly what that school consisted of, they're gonna be like, oh, that's how black people act. No! And that irritates me so much because there's an entire episode of All Grown Up where Susie felt as if she had to be perfect. She was doing so much for everyone and she was putting herself last to the point where she was extremely stressed out and she just spazzed out on everyone and everyone was just worried and they were like, Susie, you need to calm down. That's one weird thing when it always comes to black characters in the past, because you don't want them to fuck up and actually be human, because it will come off across as racist, where it's like, oh, you over here making the black character look bad and that's the only representation that they're getting. But then you're also in another weird spot, because I noticed so many of these white creators, when they are making these characters for these series, is that they make them a little too perfect. They make them a little too nice. They make them blend in with the crowd a little too much. And that's because they're afraid that they don't want people to say that, oh, they gave bad black representation, which comes down to this. We would not have this problem if black people were creating black characters. And also, why aren't there more black characters within this series? The only black people that we saw up and All Grown Up was Susie and her family, and I swear Lil Romeo and a few others that trickled in and out. But Susie was the only main black character in that series, and her family were the only recurring black characters that we saw. Susie basically is the token black kid of this entire Rugrats franchise. And honestly, tokenism is bare minimum if you ask me, because like, black girls, we love cartoons, okay? And part of the reason so many of us get attached to characters that are all voiced by Cree Summer, like Number 5 and Cree and Susie, is because we felt like that was all we had. And when it was nice to see a black girl on television that looked like us, talked like us, she wore her hair like us, and she also was really smart and she was really nice and extremely helpful and all of that. It's nice to see that, but then also we want to see them be a little bit more human as well. It frustrates me because, like I said, so much of why Susie felt as if she had to be perfect and why this show just felt like Susie had to be perfect is because this show, Rugrats has a big magical Negro problem, okay? Rugrats has a fat ass problem with the magical Negro stereotype. And that literally is what Susie is. She's basically that to plenty of the characters within the series, but that's what she mainly is towards Angelica. Part of the reason why Angelica's mother liked Susie so much and why everybody just enjoyed Susie so much is because people saw that Susie was that type of person that will challenge Angelica. She was the type of person that will put Angelica in her place. And she also was a positive influence on Angelica just as well, because Angelica's other friends were awful as fuck. Like, Savannah was a fucking bitch and her little followers didn't know how to think for themselves, okay? Angelica needed to have a good friend like Susie, but it also got so irritating to the fucking point because you know how they say don't let your white friends get you in trouble? When Susie was close to getting into some mess, especially that one episode where they were doing the wedding project and Susie and Angelica had to be married for the project, and Angelica's ass was over here misbehaving and not listening, and it ended up getting her and Susie into big trouble where they ended up lost and stranded. That's literally the dynamic between Susie and Angelica. And the entire time, Susie kept telling Angelica she was wrong for doing this and that and the third, and that she was getting them in trouble. And it was nice to see that we had that human side of Susie come out, but literally the entire purpose of that happening was to show that Susie was a positive influence on Angelica and she was always going to be there for her no matter what. Angelica was awful to Susie, okay? And it's sad because it felt like Angelica never learned, because she'll learn one thing and then she'll go back to being bad the next. But then at the same time, Angelica's 13. These are children. I get that. But it's irritating to see, because anytime I wanted to watch a Susie Center episode of All Grown Up, Angelica was always right next to her. Or Susie didn't even really have that many episodes of her own anyway, because Angelica was always the person that her plot revolved around. Susie Carmichael is not good black representation, and that's because she's literally a token black kid. Tokenism is not good diversity. Tokenism happens everywhere, okay? Because it's not just the issue that we see in our media, it also happens in the work field, where you'll see a lot of people simply got hired for the sake of meeting a quota, just to say that they have black people working for their company, and then those black people are there not getting treated all that well. That's exactly how it is when it comes to film and television and animation, where they'll bring in that one black character and they either don't do anything with them, make them fucking unbearable, or they're just being treated like shit the entire time. And I kid you not, literally, I can put out all the token black kids from those 90s Nick cartoons and even the Disney animation series, and I can literally throw them all into one of those 3 categories. No, 4 categories specifically. They're unbearable / annoying as shit. They're awful. They don't do much of anything, or their entire plot just revolves around them helping out their white friends. Because Hey Arnold had that issue too when it came to Gerald. And then when we got Gerald centered episodes, those were a mess. And part of the reason why is because we need more black people working behind the scenes of these series, okay? If you're gonna make a show and you want to include black characters in there, one, y'all need to stop tokenism, please. Stop just throwing people of color in there just to say that you have people of color in your series and not do much of anything with them, or just have them be an awful ass character that has badass writing. Please get rid of tokenism, first of all. Tokenism is not needed anymore, okay? It is 2022, about to be 2023 in half a year. Tokenism is dead. We don't need this shit anymore. Please move on, because Disney, you're still doing this, okay? You're doing it with Big City Greens. You ain't slick. I love me some Big City Greens, but you're doing the tokenism problem with that series. Tokenism would be gone if we had more black creatives working behind the scenes of these series, okay? Hire more black writers, hire more black animators, because one issue that I see a lot of animators complaining about is that they don't know how to draw black hair and black features. Well, maybe you should either, 1, learn, or 2, actually both, do both, hire someone that does know how to do that shit. We have come so far. As you know, we have Craig of the Creek. Craig of the Creek, I have mentioned before, is diversity done correctly. Even though the show was created by white people, they brought numerous black people on their team to make the show the best of their ability. That is them putting their money where their mouth is, and I actually praised them for this, okay? Like I said, you know, you shouldn't praise white people for doing the right thing and not being racist and such, but this is one of the few times where I actually am seeing people actually do something correct with their activism. It's one thing for you to say Black Lives Matter and we need more black stories and this and that and the third, and it's another to actually go out and find these black people to help you make this stuff, okay? White people, y'all can create shows about black people. Nobody is stopping you from doing that. But if your production team is just full of white people behind the scenes, that's an issue. If you're gonna tell black stories, you need to have black people involved in the making of said production, or else we're gonna continue to have the 90s Nick issue. We're gonna continue to have the early 2000s Disney Channel issue, okay? And that is tokenism. I love number 5's character in the Codename Kids Next Door, but her character literally is just black girl in pain. I love Susie Carmichael. She was a really big positive influence with me on the series, but that's because the show was so afraid to do much of anything with her outside of Angelica, or let her show a more human side of her more, because we did see Susie break down and whatever the fuck, but that was rare. There have been so many times where we saw Angelica break down, we saw Lil break down, we saw Tommy over here throwing fit about him and his girlfriend breaking up, okay? But we didn't really get much of that shit with Susie, and that's because the people there on that show really didn't know what to do with her. It's like Andre all over again and Dan Snyder, because I was talking about how Andre really didn't do anything. He was just there. He had the least amount of episodes centered on him when it came to Victorious, and it leaves you in a really confused area because you're just like, yeah, I wish this character did more. But then if the writers actually did more with this character, it might have came off as racially insensitive. That's the frustrating thing about it. And you know how you can, brush past racial insensitivity? Have more black characters in your work. And not just make them side characters, okay? Make them mains, not make them day players or their plot only revolves around their white characters, okay? Have more black characters in your work, and also have more black people working behind the scenes of your series. That's all I'm going to say about this, okay? Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, please make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe down below if you have not already. If you guys want to know where you can support me, I have donation links down below. I have Buy Me a Coffee, I have Ko-fi, and I have Patreon. Links to those will be down below. I also am doing a campaign for my web series called The Progenies. It's a Descendants fan series where we want to, fix the diversity within it because it was awful. We are running a GoFundMe link because we want to get back to filming, but we need the funds to do so. The link to that will be down below just as well. If you guys want to know another way you can support me for free is to watch The Progeny. Stream all the episodes that we have out now. Link will be down below. And another way you can support me for free is just to follow me on everything at Harriyanna, HARRIYANNA. Thank you guys so much for watching and have a good night.
'Cause I work hard to get to this point in my life. I'm blowing up, so don't hate, just congratulate.
The Powerpuff Girls will just blow your mind. Buttercup like villains 3 at a time. Bubbles will smile while kicking your butt, and Blossom will lead them out of their rut. Cherish and Powerpuff, 2 of a kind. Both wanna save the world before bedtimes. From Townsville, Memphis, New York to LA, the Powerpuff Girls are just here to stay. They coming through and fighting, and everyone they're shocking. You know no one can stop them all because of the chemical X. They coming through and fighting, and everyone they're shocking. You know no one can stop them all because